What is Spring? It is a lightweight, loosely coupled and integrated framework for developing enterprise applications in Java. What are the advantages of Spring Framework? Predefined templates. Loose coupling. Easy to test. Lightweight. Fast development. Powerful abstraction. Declarative support. What are the modules of Spring Framework? Test. Spring Core Container. App, Aspects and Instrumentation. Data Access, Integration. Web. What is IOC and DI? IOC, inversion of control, and DI, dependency injection, is a design pattern to provide loose coupling. It removes the dependency from the program. Let's write a code without following IOC and DI. Public class employee. Address employee. Address equals new address, / creating instance. Now, there is dependency between employee and address because employee is forced to use the same address instance. Let's write the IOC or DI code. Public class employee. Address employee address. This dot address equals address semicolon / a not creating instance. Now, there is no dependency between employee and address because employee is not forced to use the same address instance. It can use any address instance. What is the role of IOC container in Spring? IOC container is responsible to create the instance, configure the instance, and assemble the dependencies. What are the types of IOC container in Spring? There are two types of IOC containers in Spring Framework. Bin Factory. Application context. What is the difference between constructor injection and setter injection? Constructor injection, setter injection. 1. No partial injection, partial injection. 2. Doesn't override the setter property, overrides the constructor property if both are defined. 3. Creates new instance if any modification occurs, doesn't create new instance if you change the property value. 4. Better for too many properties, better for few properties. What is the difference between bin factory and application context? Bin factory is the basic container whereas application context is the advanced container. Application context extends the bin factory interface. Application context provides more facilities than bin factory such as integration with Spring App, message resource handling for internationalization etc. What is auto-hiring in Spring? What are the auto-hiring modes? Auto-hiring enables the programmer to inject the bin automatically. We don't need to write explicit injection logic. Let's see the code to inject bin using dependency injection. Bin id equals emp class equals com.java@point.employee auto-hire equals by name. The auto-hiring modes are given below. No. Mode description. 1. No, this is the default mode, it means auto-hiring is not enabled. 2. By name injects the bin based on the property name. It uses setter method. 3. By type injects the bin based on the property type. It uses setter method. 4. Constructor it injects the bin using constructor. The auto detect mode is deprecated since Spring 3. What are the different bin scopes in Spring? There are 5 bin scopes in Spring Framework. Scope description. 1. Singleton. The bin instance will be only once and same instance will be returned by the IOC container. It is the default scope. 2. Prototype. The bin instance will be created each time when requested. 3. Request. The bin instance will be created per HTTP request. 4. Session. The bin instance will be created per HTTP session. 5. Global session. The bin instance will be created per HTTP global session. It can be used in portlet context only. In which scenario, you will use singleton and prototype scope? Singleton scope should be used with EJB stateless session bean and prototype scope with EJB stateful session bean. What are the transaction management supports provided by Spring? Spring Framework provides two types of transaction management supports. Programmatic transaction management should be used for few transaction operations. Declarative transaction management should be used for many transaction operations. What are the advantages of JDBC template in Spring? Less code. By using the JDBC template class, you don't need to create connection, statement, start transaction, commit transaction and close connection to execute different queries. You can execute the query directly. What are classes for Spring JDBC API? JDBC template. Simple JDBC template. Named parameter JDBC template. Simple JDBC insert. Simple JDBC call. How can you fetch records by Spring JDBC template? You can fetch records from the database by the query method of JDBC template. There are two interfaces to do this. Result set extractor. Row mapper. What is the advantage of named parameter JDBC template? Named parameter JDBC template class is used to pass value to the named parameter. A named parameter is better than ? Of prepared statement. It is better to remember. What is the advantage of simple JDBC template? The simple JDBC template supports the feature of var args and autoboxing. What is APP? APP is an acronym for Aspect-Oriented Programming. It is a methodology that divides the program logic into pieces or parts or concerns. It increases the modularity and the key unit is aspect. What are the advantages of Spring APP? APP enables you to dynamically add or remove concern before or after the business logic. It is pluggable and easy to maintain. What are the APP terminology? APP terminologies or concepts are as follows. Join point. Advice. Point cut. Aspect. Introduction. Target object. Interceptor. APP proxy. Weaving. What is join point? Join point is any point in your program such as field access, method execution, exception handling etc. Does Spring Framework support all join points? No, Spring Framework supports method execution join point only. What is advice? Advice represents action taken by aspect. What are the types of advice in APP? There are 5 types of advices in Spring APP. Before advice. After advice. After returning advice. Throws advice. Around advice. What is point cut? Point cut is expression language of Spring APP. What is aspect? Aspect is a class in Spring APP that contains advices and join points. What is introduction? Introduction represents introduction of new fields and methods for a type. What is target object? Target object is a proxy object that is advised by one or more aspects. What is interceptor? Interceptor is a class-like aspect that contains one advice only. What is weaving? Weaving is a process of linking aspect with other application. Does Spring perform weaving at compile time? No, Spring Framework performs weaving at runtime. What are the APP implementation? There are 3 APP implementation. Spring APP. Apache Aspect. JBoss APP. What is introduction? What is the front controller class of Spring MVC? The dispatcher servlet class works as the front controller in Spring MVC. What does @controller annotation? The @controller annotation marks the class as controller class. It is applied on the class. What does @request mapping annotation? The @request mapping annotation maps the request with the method. It is applied on the method. What does the ViewResolver class? The ViewResolver class resolves the view component to be invoked for the request. It defines prefix and suffix properties to resolve the view component. Which ViewResolver class is widely used? The org.spring.web.servlet.view.internal resource ViewResolver class is widely used. Does Spring MVC provide validation support? Yes.